Hi everybody, it's Martin the Flicking Feathers again today, and I'm tying a foam bass bug for you today. I call it the creature frog. It's a nice wee chugging frog. You can fish it as a slider as well because it's rounded at the front. It's fairly straightforward. You can tie them in various sizes. You can tie them in different colours, like there's a brown version. Just tie them to suit the frogs in your area, basically. So this I'm tying. This is I'm using the medium cones creature legs, and I'm putting them on a size 1 Gamakatsu B10S. So I'm just going to run on some heavy thread. This is Danvos flat wax nylon in 210. And then I'm going to grab a bit of nylon. This is £20 nylon. This will be for my weed guard. And I mean, you can tie whichever weed guard you like, but I'm doing like a double loop. And I'm catching the nylon on the side of the shank. Right, I don't know if you can see that very well. Not on top. Get one side started, and then I'll start the other. Come back to this. This just helps widen this widens it horizontally, right, which helps to support the foam, stops it having any tendency to twist, and it just makes for a more durable fly. At this stage I'll just snap these, and then I'll lead them down and round the bend. Right, go quite far, all the way round, and then I'll bring my thread back up. And if there's any sort of low bits, you can sort of adjust them with your thumbnail. And then I'm going to take another piece of nylon, same stuff, just a wee short length. I'm going to tie it in here with a figure of 8, with cross wraps, X wraps, some of you call them. And again, make sure this is nice and even horizontally. Come forward a wee bit more and just repeat this. And this, again, it helps to stabilise the foam. It makes for a nice tough fly. It's not going to twist, it's not going to get all fouled up, you know, it will stay in good order, which is important. You know, you want your flies to last. So I'm just going to come in now and get loads of super glue on this. Really give it a good heavy coat all over, top and bottom. And this will sort of it seals everything, locks all that nylon in place on position in the hook, which gives you a good solid foundation for the fly. Just got to trim these tags of nylon. You don't need them long, just maybe, I don't know, half an inch, 12mm, something like that is plenty. So once it's dry, you can start your thread again, and all of the actual tying is going to take place from the start of the bend to just in front of the point of the hook. and it's fairly simple. This is the medium Cohen's Creatures frog legs. These are 1.75 inches, and I've coloured them with permanent marker. It's up to you. Again, as I said, just colour them to suit the frogs in your area. Green, brown. I mean, you'll not go wrong if you go green, brown, olive, and maybe even black. Right? Some of the frogs here are actually quite dark. They're close to being black. And then, just for this sort of transition, I'm going to use 3 saddle hackles. I'll be tying them in separately. Well, I'll tie them in 2 stages. First one I'm going to tie in, again, colour to suit, this is just an olive. I'm going to tie it in by the base, and I'm going to include some of the sort of marabou type feathers or fibres. And I'm just going to double it as I wind. Get some of these soft mobile fibres in here as I wind forward. Come in and catch that before the fibres start getting too short. Right, you want to have fairly long feather fibres. Then I'll just sweep it back, sort of tidy up. One's fighting me there. Right, I mean it's not that important really, but because the foam will push everything back, but I like to get it reasonably tidy. And then for the second stage I'm tying in, and this is just a chartreuse and another olive one. So I separate these roughly where the fibres start to kind of taper down a bit, get a bit shorter. I'll tie it in at that point. Both fibres together. Fold the tips, and then keep tensioning your thread and just snap them off. Pull it in forward, back, and lash it down. And then same thing, just a couple of turns. Up until you're sort of just hitting the marabou. You should be roughly just in front of the point of the hook. Come across your thread in a 90 degree, bend the feathers a 90 degree angle. Keep that tight. 2 or 3 turns is plenty. Trim away your waste. And then sweep everything back and take a few wraps back. Right, over the feathers, and that just helps create a sort of nice transition between the body and the legs. Adds a bit of movement as well, and these legs move a fair bit once they soak up a bit of water. So the thread's just sort of in line with the point of the hook, and I've got a strip of foam here, just slightly wider than the hook gate, or 1 1/4 times. I'm using yellow and green. I've got a 2mm and a 3mm piece. It's up to you. You can, obviously for a bigger hook you'll change it. You can use 3 parts of 2 or 2 parts of 3 for a 1/0, something like that. So I pierced the foam in the middle, and I'm pushing it right back to the first piece of mono. Right. And you can fold it flat, take a nice loose wrap. Your thick thread, you don't need to worry too much about cutting the foam with it. Just make sure it's nice and straight. Right. And pull the thread tight towards yourself. Right. Don't pull down, pull straight towards yourself. And each wrap you can get a wee bit tighter, right? But don't go too much. I'm just on the edge here. I'm starting to sort of crease the foam a bit, which I don't want to go any tighter than that. Right. This stage I like to come in with my super glue again. Get the foam in, get the glue in there, and close that foam onto the nylon. Right. Same this side. Close that foam onto the nylon, and that sort of binds everything together quite nicely. So my second piece of foam is the same width, but it's slightly longer, right? Because it's got to stretch around the yellow, which is only stretching. The yellow's only stretching around the hook. So you'll just need to measure them as you tie, based on the size of the fly. The difference is always slightly different. So same again, just carefully pierce it in the middle. You can fold it to make sure that the ends are even and you're getting it right in the right place. Just get your bodkin in there, and then you can even take the blade of your scissors just to widen it slightly. And then push it on, and don't be shy. You can put a fair bit of force on it. You want to make sure you've got room to tie in your weed guard. And then take a wrap over one, right, top there, and then after that you can push the bottom up. I find it's just a bit easier to handle if you do it like this. I mean, you could do both at once, but there's not really any advantage of doing both at once. You can sort of push and pull it. Get it how you like, get that thread nice and tight. Then I don't bother with a whip finish, because the whole fly is going to be coated. So I just run a bit of super glue on my thread, run it around there like that, let that sit for a couple of seconds. And cut it in the groove where it's never going to be seen. Now you can add some spots or whatever. I've left my marker behind the background. Just got to take a black pen, you know, stick them in the sides, a couple on the belly. It's up to you. I mean, you can spend ages and make it really, you know, really look like a frog, or you can just do enough. Next is to stick on some eyes. These are 3D eyes. These are these Jurassic eyes, just a pack I've got lying around. Any old eye will do, whatever you like really. Again, I'm not worrying about super gluing this or anything because it's going to be coated. Just get them one on each side. And you can press it, you can see that foam had sort of crept slightly to the side. I've just forced it in. That's why I didn't put any super glue between the green layer and the yellow layer. It gives you a bit of leeway when it comes to like positioning everything at the end. If you glue it, it's glued, it's stuck. So before I coat this, I'm going to tie off my weed guard. So I'm just going to start my thread in front of the foam. And then I take these one at a time to make sure I get them on the right side. If you tie both together, they can fold onto the wrong side. So this is my near side piece of nylon, so I'm going to tie that on my near side. 2 wraps is plenty to hold it at this stage, and then I'll do the off side. Do the same. Oops. And then you just make sure that they're the same size. And I don't know, just gently tap them. I like about a half to a quarter of the hook gape extra there beyond the hook. And then once you're sort of happy, you can tighten them down a wee bit. I'll get some wax on my thread for grip and protection of the thread. Right. Couple of turns in front, and then I'll whip finish this. Just cut a 2-finger whip finish is plenty. That wax has got to make it quite grippy anyway. Then I'm going to cut these and leave it just proud of the tie-in. Right. And then I'll take the fly out of the vise and hold it so the foam is lower than the eye in these pieces of nylon. And then I'll take my lighter and I'll just burn that nylon back. And it makes a wee bead, and then you can sort of just pull it in, just adjust it, and that will never ever slip out. That's it. Right, it's thoroughly tied in, and the burnt nylon is anchoring it quite securely. Now the coating that I use is this stuff. It's Utica rubber paint, right? It's clear rubber paint, liquid rubber. Give that a good shake. It's not as tough as epoxy, but it's also not as heavy. And it's self-leveling, so you don't need to worry about a drying wheel or anything. Which is how I can finish that before coating. I just put these in like a crocodile clip. One of these, got an eye in that one, but and just let it dry. A bit of fluff there. Make sure there's nothing stuck to the back of the eye or anything. And then, I mean, I just use a toothpick and I just roll this on. Get the thread wraps well covered. The good thing about this is it doesn't react with the Copic markers, which I use, so I don't need to worry about the colours changing or anything. although it does react with some pens, so it's worth checking. And just get a nice, reasonably thick coat all around. Right, coat the whole fly. Allow it to go in any gaps in the foam, any creases, fill any wee lumps or bumps. I mean, you could use silicone as well, but this is much easier stuff to work. I always try to get it reasonably even, but it's not crucially important because this stuff sort of self-levels. I mean, don't leave massive bumps because it might not level them out that perfectly, but if you're reasonably close to smooth, you'll get a nice clear finish that's plenty tough enough for bass. And that's it. You know, I just leave that to dry. It depends on the temperature. It anywhere from about half an hour to 6 hours, depending on where you are and if you've got your aircon on. But I hope that was useful. I hope you enjoyed it. You'll end up with something like this when the rubber's dry. Right, nice and tough, still soft, so the fish hold on to it if they're not hooked. You know, it feels like something that they would eat. So yeah, tie some of these up, catch some bass. I'm sure pike will take them as well, although the pike will make short work of them. Snakehead too. Yeah, so if you enjoyed that, don't forget to like and subscribe. Share the video wherever you feel that it would be of interest to people. Thanks very much for watching, and tight lines guys. Bye.